be fortunate is Rashad White. I think once he gets into the game, I don't think Leonard Fournette is actually going to get that much. He'll get some snaps, but I don't see him getting more than 10 snaps, as in 10 touches, 10 carries. Appreciate everyone joining us on this Monday night. We're just previewing Monday Night Football between the Saints and the Buccaneers. Also answering any fantasy football questions that you have. Fumble Sports is a new sports content company. We're here for you, the fan. We've already started to look towards NFL Week 14. So if you've got fantasy questions, we're already starting to do that. That said, we are already starting to get our gambling lines in order for the early week show tomorrow. We do a show on Twitter Spaces every Tuesday at 7. Are the Raiders legit? I don't think they really are. I just think this is an end-of-the-year spurt. You are certainly seeing the individual talent that they have on the field. Max Crosby, one of the best individual defensive linemen in the league. Devontae Adams is an absolute freak. But overall, the 53-man roster for the Raiders just isn't talented enough right now to compete. And it kind of speaks to a reverse problem that the Broncos have. I think the Broncos lack stars on the offensive side of the ball, where they have a decent roster overall. The Raiders, they have individual stars. I don't think they have enough of a 53-man roster. So I think this is a late kick by the Raiders to make the record look good in the history books. But no, I don't really think the Raiders are legit. I think the Chargers kind of exposed themselves yesterday. That's what I really learned, is that the Los Angeles Chargers aren't nearly as good as I was hoping they would be at the beginning of the year, and that I thought they would be once they got healthier. Maybe they really missed Mike Williams. Maybe they missed some of their defensive players, but I'm a little disappointed in what the Chargers have become. How are Kamara and Evans looking tonight? Well, I did some research about what Mike Evans has done historically against the New Orleans Saints, and it hasn't been good. He's only had 4, 2, 1, 3 and receptions over his last 4 games against the Saints. That's dating back over the last 2 years. So I'm not crazy about what I'm expecting from him. That said, Alvin Kamara going up against one of the better run defenses in the NFL. So I don't feel great about either one of them tonight. But that said, if I had to lean towards one of them, it would probably actually be Kamara, because if the Saints are going to do anything tonight, they're going to have to involve him heavily in the offense in both the run and pass game. You need 22 from Godwin tonight. How's it looking? Not great. Historically, Tom Brady has not played the Saints well. He's got a 5-5 record against them, 18 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. The thing you're hoping for is that Godwin finds the end zone. If that's the case, you'll probably get close to it. But I'm not expecting more than maybe a 15, 17-point game from Godwin. So I think you'll be biting your nails for most of Monday Night Football. Is Jacobs the best back in the league right now? I think he has had the best 2 weeks in the league right now. I don't think he's the best running back in the NFL overall. I think he played a really bad Chargers run defense. If you check out our content at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter, we put out a lot of content, gambling, fantasy, rants as well. But in our gambling content, we had him as a start in fantasy this past week. We expected him to have a big week against the Chargers. He played well. So for me, he's a great running back against good matchups. But is he the best running back in the league? No, I still probably go Nick Chubb. Derrick Henry, I know he's had some bad weeks put together, but Derrick Henry is always hard to go against. And then there's the occasional running back who kind of shows himself week in, week out, like a Mixon with a 5 running back game, though I certainly wouldn't say he's the best running back in the league. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube as we just talk, we preview Monday Night Football, any bets you want to ask about, any fantasy questions that you have. We're also getting ready for NFL Week 14 already. So if you have questions about your fantasy team going into what is a critical week for fantasy football owners, I know we're getting to crunch time, close to the playoffs. So if you have fantasy football questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Definitely want to answer them, want to help you out, and want to help you win your fantasy weeks. I know some of you are already, you're still in week 13, so you're heavily focused in what's going on now. So you have Kamara and White with 2 spots to play up in 22. My opponent has Evans and Olave. Do I win? I think you will win. I think Godwin will outplay Evans, and I think Kamara and Olave will be almost a wash. It's just a question of who's going to get the touchdown. Sorry about that with the Saints. You need Kamara and White to combine for 25. I can see Rachaad White getting a touchdown. I can see Kamara getting a touchdown. If that's the case, you may get there, but I think it's going to be close. I don't think there are going to be a lot of points in this game. One of the bets I like in this is the under. I would buy the 1.5, get this up to 42.5 points, and buy the under in this game. I don't see there are going to be a lot of offense. I think Tom Brady historically has not played this team well. Even when he's had a good offense around him, good offensive line, he doesn't have that right now. So I think the Bucs will win this game. The Bucs win. I actually think the Bucs will cover, so I would like Bucs. I buy the 1.5, bring it down, so Bucs minus 1.5, and the under 42.5. But really, for me, I don't see a lot of offense in this game. So if you're looking for a lot of fantasy points out of this one, I don't think you're going to be satisfied. I don't think Herbert's career is going to get ruined in Los Angeles, in part because I'm already hearing rumors, and it's not rumors that I'm hearing, it's stuff that's being put out on the pregame shows, that Sean Payton is interested in 2 jobs in this upcoming offseason, the Cardinals job and the Chargers job. And I would like to see him with Herbert more than I'd like to see him with Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray as a head coach is kryptonite. I don't see anyone being able to work well with him. I think he's kind of a spoiled brat. That said, I think Justin Herbert is really coachable. I think he is. I like a taller quarterback. I think someone who can throw over the offensive line is a value. He's got a big arm. He has decent decision making. I think there are times where he's just desperate and he's making throws he shouldn't be making out of desperation, not out of decision making. I think it has to do with how the game is coached in the first 3.5 quarters, and then he might have his struggles in the final half of the fourth quarter. But I think Herbert, under the tutelage of Sean Payton, would be just a home run. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for out of Los Angeles in the next year. Godwin and my opponent has White down 4 right now. Are you looking bad? No, I think you're looking okay because Leonard Fournette is going to play. So you're hoping those split backs will ultimately take away from White's production. I don't think Mike White is going to outscore Olave and Fournette, only because I think Olave, he's proven he's one of the best young wide receivers coming out of this past draft class, and they have targeted him quite frequently. I think Andy Dalton will continue to target him tonight. Olave or Evans, I actually lean towards Olave. Again, I think it's more because Tom Brady's going to spread the ball around, and historically, Evans has not played against the Saints very well. I mentioned some of the stats a moment ago, so I actually like Olave more. I think unless he gets hurt, we've seen him. He takes some big shots sometimes. If he's able to stay on the field, I actually like him to get more points. Mayfield to the Niners, think anyone picks him up. I think someone will ultimately pick him up. I don't think it may be this year. I think he might go through the end of the year, and in the offseason he's picked up and will compete to be a backup somewhere next season. But my suspicion is the Niners are not going to go with him. I think Kyle Shanahan actually doesn't like a Baker Mayfield kind of player, kind of quarterback. He wants someone, think of Jimmy G. I think he wants someone he can control. The only way he would give that up is for a Patrick Mahomes-style quarterback, which was what he was hoping Trey Lance would be. That's the only time you take those chances, with a once-in-a-generational talent like a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen. They hoped Trey Lance was going to be that. I think what Kyle Shanahan's going to want the remainder of the year through the playoffs with this 49ers team is someone who's going to be disciplined, manage the game well. Baker Mayfield is not a game manager. So I don't actually think Baker Mayfield does get picked up this season. I think he may go unsigned into the offseason, and then he'll get signed in the offseason, and he'll go down to like the Texans or something like that. I actually think that should be a team that should pick him up. Like the Houston Texans the remainder of the year. What do you have to lose? Like you're going with Kyle Allen at this point. You're getting absolutely rocked. If nothing else, you're going to sell some tickets because I'm sure there's some Oklahoma fans that would like to see Baker Mayfield in a Houston Texans jersey. So that's probably what I would do. Rachaad White or Lenny? I would definitely go Rachaad White tonight. Do you think? I just skipped it. Sorry about that. Do you think Mike Evans and the Bucs will combine for 17 tonight? Yes, I do. I think that's actually a reasonable expectation. Aaron Jones, Christian Kirk, or Lockett for Eckler. I don't know which wide receiver to pick or is fair. Is this a trade or is this who to start for the upcoming week? Give me some guidance. I think Aaron Jones's production is going to go down. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers make a move away from Aaron Rodgers in the next 2 weeks. They have a bye, and then when they come back, they're not in contention for the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they go to Jordan Love. I don't know if they're going to actually push the gas on Aaron Jones. I don't know if you want to get him hurt late in the year. That said, Lockett, I really like what I'm seeing from him. I think the Seahawks are going to need to lean on him and DK Metcalf in the passing game down the stretch of this year. So I could see Lockett having a very big year, a very big December. That said, Eckler, interesting place the Chargers are in. I'm kind of curious to see what happens. Is Lattimore out? I haven't heard anything yet. I'm happy to look up what the injury report is, though. So for the Saints, players that are out, Lattimore is questionable. I'm seeing that he's still questionable, so must be a game time decision. I haven't heard anything yet. You traded Evans and Donovan's Peoples-Jones for Swift and Debo, but Debo lost Jimmy G. That said, whoever comes into that role at starting quarterback for the 49ers, they're going to rely heavily on the talent of Debo and Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. So I actually think that you will see Debo get as much production as he ever has this year because they're going to rely on him so much. I think his targets will remain incredibly high. As for Swift, I think you just see week in, week out, this Lions offense puts up a lot of points. They're up and down the field. So I'm slightly concerned for you because I think you may have given away the better players in that one. That said, I do think Donovan Peoples-Jones, beyond his special teams touchdown this past week, will see better production over the next couple weeks. You need the Bucs D to outscore the Saints by 5. I like that just because I think you're going to get a number of sacks. I could see a fumble recovery. I could certainly see an interception. I also could see some kind of defensive score in this one. It's actually a prop bet that might not be bad for those out there who like some longer odds, is to consider a defensive score in this game. I like to do that sometimes in primetime games because I always feel like you get some craziness out of that. And with these two teams, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a pick six, strip sack of Andy Dalton taken to the house, something like that. Final score for tonight's Monday night game. I'll go Bucs 20. I'll go Bucs 20 and the Saints 17. So 2017, the under would hit. The Bucs would cover, but only if you bought the 1.5. Thoughts on Zonovan Knight? I think you saw they're going to use him. This guy's got a burst of speed, and one of the things I like is he's a rookie who doesn't have a lot of usage early in the year. One of the things you're starting to see is guys like Kenneth Walker III, Damian Pierce. They're starting to hit that rookie wall. Zonovan Knight, he hasn't been in that position, so I expect him to deliver a burst for the Jets and possibly for a number of fantasy owners as well. Down 18, Lenny or White. I would go Rachaad White, absolutely. You're really banking on a lot if you're expecting a lot of production out of Leonard Fournette. He's coming off a hip injury. I'm very concerned about any running back coming off a hip injury. That just seems like something. White would be the obvious choice for me. Who gets more rush yards? Again, I'm going with White. I think obviously you're going to benefit from both receiving yards and rushing yards with White, but I certainly think Rachaad White is the better play of the two. Baker to the XFL. Don't be surprised if that actually does happen. That league that The Rock is building, it's going to require these kinds of personalities and stars that are marketable and kind of play to what the was it the AFL was or whatever the Trump League was. I'm forgetting that one. Feel free to put it out in the chat. But absolutely, I could see Baker Mayfield going to the XFL now that it's not under the wrestling banner, but is more under the Rock banner. I think it's going to be a different kind of league, so I wouldn't be surprised by that. I actually think that's a really good call. Just checking out some of your comments in the chat. Mr. Relevant, about to be the coldest nickname in history of Brock Purdy, goes off. By the way, I was thinking about this earlier. there's a great piece of like origin history, like superheroes with Tom Brady, that in his first game, in a preseason game, he played against the 49ers in a game they were honoring Joe Montana. And Tom Brady was a huge Joe Montana fan. And obviously before Tom Brady, a lot of people thought Joe Montana was the GOAT, the greatest quarterback of all time. And there's this bit of handing off that in Tom Brady's first preseason game, same night Joe Montana is honored. Okay, Tom Brady's first start in the NFL. A lot of people remember his first game. He came in against the Jets. It actually was his first game was against the Lions, but that's a separate story. But his first start in the NFL was actually against Peyton Manning, another great quarterback. And now you think Brock Purdy, his first start in the NFL is going to be against Tom Brady. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Obviously, Purdy goes even beyond that. He's the 7th-round pick, Mr. Irrelevant. So if Brock Purdy becomes anything, this origin story kind of moves on. I know that was a bit of a tangent, but there you go. Thoughts on Deshaun Watson? I put out a video about this at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We're a new sports content company. One of the things we do is we do put out rant videos. And I was happy to see Deshaun Watson have a terrible statistical day. That's just more because I'm not going to be a fan of him anymore. You know, if Ray Rice had come back and played football, I wouldn't have been cheering for him to have big fantasy days or big statistical days. That's just maybe my own pettiness. Or maybe that's just, I don't think he deserves this opportunity. That said, I do think he's going to shake off the rust. I think he's going to start playing better. I'm just amazed by the power that the NFL has. When the NFL decides we are going to move on with something, whether it's concussions, whether it's cheerleaders in Washington, whether it's domestic violence, whatever it is, the NFL is just a train that just runs downhill. It's just amazing. So I think Deshaun Watson and the Browns, they're going to be competitive. I'm interested to see how they play next week. They go up against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's going to be a really interesting game. I'm definitely rooting for Joe Burrow and Cincinnati on that one. But I was in Cleveland earlier this summer, and I spoke to fans of the Cleveland Browns, and their general attitude is we need a quarterback. So it's just interesting how football affects people in different ways, and that's kind of how I feel about it. Lenny or White? I'm definitely going Rachaad White tonight. Thoughts on Alvin Kamara? Alvin Kamara has just been one of the most disappointing players this year. I don't necessarily think it's all on him. I think the Saints have kind of set him up to fail. But if you're a fantasy owner who drafted Alvin Kamara or an auction draft, you picked up Alvin Kamara, he certainly hasn't delivered like you would have hoped. That said, he's always capable of having a good game because he's going to be on the field for so many snaps, being in the run game, being in the pass game. But if you're a fantasy owner, this is one of those cautionary tales. This is why you have to monitor not just the player, but the team he's on. Did you really think Alvin Kamara was going to have a monster fantasy year, given the roster he's on? The moment Michael Thomas went down, this team was very different, no matter who the quarterback was, because they never had a quarterback. So you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a star wide receiver. Olave, he's an emerging star, or he's an emerging highly touted wide receiver, but he's not there yet. So for that reason, I think Kamara was kind of set up to fail. This offensive line hasn't been able to stay healthy. So for a lot of reasons, I'm kind of down on him. He could have a decent night tonight just because I think they'll use him a lot. They'll target him a lot. But Alvin Kamara, definitely a disappointment this year. If you need just 1.1 points from him, I think you will be okay. That said. Lattimore not expected to play. That is a big one, only because I think that helps my bets. At least when it comes to the Bucks covering. I like the Bucks to cover. I'm going to buy it down. It's at 3 right now. Buy it down to 1.5 and get that so your head's even under 2 points. I feel good about that. I think it also helps Mike Evans if you want to take a chance on Mike Evans. I'm not huge on the passing game of the Bucks right now, but Lattimore not being in will certainly help them. Who wins this trade? Mark Evans and Waddle for George Kittle and D-Hop. That's a really interesting one, but I think we know who it's going to be now. I think it's going to be Kittle and D-Hop, because what's interesting is I think Mark Andrews will miss Lamar Jackson more than George Kittle will miss Jimmy Garoppolo. I think whatever quarterback the 49ers put in, they're going to need their tight end to be reliable. I think the Ravens right now, and this is something I've been saying for weeks, the Ravens don't have enough receivers. They don't have enough weapons. They don't have enough people that are going to draw defenses. The safety is going to cap Mark Andrews on every route that he runs. They're going to undercut him. It's just going to be tough for Mark Andrews to get production with a backup quarterback in there. when Lamar Jackson comes back, I still wonder. Mark Andrews hasn't scored a lot of touchdowns this year, so his production hasn't been there. I like Waddle. I think Waddle's the player in this trade that I really like the most. I think DeAndre Hopkins will continue to put up big numbers because Kyler targets him so frequently. So for those reasons, I lean towards Kittle D-Hop being the winner in that trade. People on Twitter saying Lattimore is out. Yeah, we just heard that's going to be a big one. Marquise Hollywood Brown. Yeah, he's been a disappointment this year only because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I expect that when he's on the field across from D-Hop, they could really do some dynamic things together. But we haven't seen a game this year in which DeAndre Hopkins, Robbie Anderson, and Marquise Hollywood Brown have been on the field together. And beyond that, I just think there are kind of clouds circling over the Arizona Cardinals right now. Cliff Kingsbury will definitely be the next head coach fired, in my opinion, if it's not Nathaniel Hackett out of Denver. But I think Cliff Kingsbury, when he's gone, once this offense is installed by someone new, that'll really tell us who Marquise Hollywood Brown's going to be and whether his career is just kind of peter out. Appreciate you saying it's a bad prediction. By the way, would love to hear takes. If you've got a different take on things, Butt Fumble Sports is absolutely here to hear from the fan. We're a huge fan of engagement. So reply to videos, DM us. We'd love to engage with you. Butt Fumble Sports is a new sports content company where we believe every fan can be on-air talent. So if you've got a take, if you want to be on-air talent, if you love talking sports but you can't go into it for whatever reason, this is the place for you. Thoughts on Jameson Williams long-term? I'm really excited about him. I think the guy's got incredible speed, and he's got good hands for a deep route runner. I think in that Detroit Lions offense, he's going to pair really well with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I kind of wish they had kept TJ Hawkinson because that would have given that inside, middle of the field option to pair with these two great wide receivers. But I'm sure this is a loaded draft class for tight ends. I actually think this is going to end up being one of the greatest classes for tight ends in NFL draft history. So that's definitely something that if I'm the Lions, I definitely go target in that draft. When do I think Joe Mixon's going to be back? I think he's going to be back next week. I think they sat him out this week because I think they were more comfortable with P. Ryan in the matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. But I expect Joe Mixon to be back next week against the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns are not a good run defense, so I could see him having a good day. Appreciate everyone joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Trade Christian McCaffrey for Eckler. I would right now, only because there's uncertainty with the 49ers. That said, a major warning to you. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to remain a focal point of the offense with Purdy a quarterback or whoever they put under center. So I don't think Christian McCaffrey's production is going to completely go away, but I do think Austin Eckler is a bit more of a sure thing. And when I say sure thing, he's, it's one injury away. So that trade isn't necessarily one you want to make. One thing we definitely want to be bringing up tonight, if you have any parlays that are still active like us, Butt Fumble Sports, we had a really successful week with parlays this week. We're posting them on TikTok and on Twitter, at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We had a number of wins in our parlays, but if you've got the Tampa Bay Bucks in a parlay, make sure you hedge. You want to make sure you get some money out of tonight. There are still ways to do it so you can cash on both tickets. But just because you have a parlay and you're waiting on the Bucks or you're waiting on the Saints, don't throw that money away or don't think that your work is done. Make sure that you cash just in case things go against you. Christian McCaffrey and Kamara are pushing wash status. I certainly would say that about Kamara. I don't know if I'd say that about Christian McCaffrey. Kittle has terrible production. He blocks way too much. I agree with you. He's definitely a blocking tight end, but I like what I'm seeing him. I like more of him in the red zone, funny enough, than I do Mark Andrews. That's not something I would have said at the beginning of the year. If Lamar Jackson isn't 100%, should he play since he doesn't have his contract yet? Well, I think he should play when he's comfortable to come back. The Ravens are going to try and get him back on the field, not this week, but the following week, because they're absolutely in the hunt for the playoffs, and they're not in a good position. You can see the Bengals starting to make a charge. So if I'm Lamar Jackson, I absolutely take things slow because there are going to be plenty of suitors, whether it's the New York Jets, whether, again, it's the Houston Texans. I'm sure there are plenty of teams out there Lamar Jackson can go to that he'll want to. Yeah, Lattimore, lacerated kidney. What a devastating injury. Ugh, ugly. Landry under 39.5. Yes, I think that's a good play. Should Dallas sign OBJ if he doesn't want to do a workout with them? I wouldn't. I think the Cowboys have enough without OBJ so that they do need to see something from him that tells them that their money isn't just going to be thrown on a player who can't play this year. Because if I'm the Cowboys, I don't want to sign Odell Beckham Jr. for 2023. I'm all in right now. If I'm signing him, I'm signing. Thoughts on the Cowboys? This defense, Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn should not be a head coach. Dan Quinn should be a defensive coordinator. When he's a defensive coordinator, he is outstanding. His defenses are amazing. They're physical. They're fast. Give credit to Jerry Jones and the team of geniuses that have been drafting the last few years because they've addressed their defense more in the last few years. Their offensive line has held up better the last few weeks than it had been earlier in the year. Then again, they're not playing juggernaut teams right now. So what are the Cowboys? We're going to find out when they play the Eagles. When they play the Eagles, that is going to be the ultimate showdown at high noon. And I think the Cowboys are a team nobody wants to play in the playoffs. But to me, if the Cowboys go anywhere, it's going to be because Zeke and Pollard are the dynamic duo. It's not going to be because of Dak. The spotlight's going to be put on Dak. A lot of people are going to talk about Dak. Dak will be the secondary to me. It has to be about Pollard and Zeke. That 1-2 punch to me is what's going to ultimately lead them to success. Are the 49ers still a contender with Brock Purdy? I think they are, only because they have such a talented roster. That said, they're making the playoffs. I don't see them making the NFC Championship like I once did. Alvin Kamara over 3.5 receptions tonight. Yep, I definitely like that. Definitely see at least 2 screens and can also see him actually run a couple patterns as well. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube as we just answer some questions, talk some football. At But Fumble Sports is a new sports content company. Definitely check out our content at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at But Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. How do I feel about the Raiders? I think the Raiders have some great individual talent, but this isn't a great 53-man roster. They're going to have to do a lot of work through the draft and through free agency. They're just having a late season kick, but I don't see the Raiders actually being anything more than just Devontae Adams and Max Crosby and Josh Jacobs just being incredibly talented. Thoughts on Olave tonight? I think he's going to be the most targeted receiver for the Saints. If they're going to get any great production out of their passing game, it's going to be through Olave, I expect. So I think he's going to be a good play in fantasy. Not a monster day, but good enough where he should, I think, be the best receiver on either team. Do you like Joe Burrow? I love Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow, to me, is that, and I hate putting it this way, but he's the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning quarterback compared to the Brett Favre quarterback. I think too often Patrick Mahomes is more a Brett Favre, big arm, chucks it around, but he takes some chances. Same goes with the Josh Allen. I think Joe Burrow is more like a Peyton Manning. He's very disciplined. I don't think he takes nearly as many chances, and his accuracy is outstanding. And also, I don't think Joe Burrow gets fazed by anything. Doesn't mean Patrick Mahomes does, but Joe Burrow has earned the nickname Joe Cool. Rachaad White or Fournette for tonight? Rachaad White, definitely. Most great coordinators need to stop trying to be head coaches. I agree with you. I think there are only a handful of guys who really know how to be head coaches, and I think it speaks to their demeanor. Sometimes we take a genius and we pluck them out of the role that they're in and expect them to be a great head coach. Josh McDaniels, we just spoke of the Raiders. I think that's a perfect example. Does Josh McDaniels really know how to coach a football team? I really haven't seen it yet. Something I've noticed, sometimes some of the better head coaches come from special teams, and it's actually because you have to take a kind of a wider view of the 53-man roster, who you can pick up, and how you can maneuver players for different purposes. Sometimes these defensive and offensive coordinators, they're geniuses, and then can you really coach the whole team? You look at Sean McVay, he's an offensive genius, but he made note that when he took over the job for the Rams, he actually had other people like Wade Phillips kind of step in who had been head coaches before and take some of the responsibility because he knew he wouldn't be able to kind of handle all 100% of the responsibility as a head coach. So I think that's something that served him well. Opinion of the 49ers, I think they're the most talented 53-man roster other than the Eagles in the NFL, and yet without a quarterback. it's like going into the NBA playoffs without a superstar. You could have a great team, you could have a great bench. If you don't have a superstar, I just don't see how you're winning a championship. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube. Will Amari Cooper bounce back? I think Amari Cooper is going to bounce back. I was really disappointed yesterday. He was one of our prop bets. It didn't cash. I expected him to get over 4.5 receptions. He got 4, so that was a hard pill to swallow. But that said, I expect him to continue to build that chemistry with Deshaun Watson. And I also think you saw Deshaun Watson's mechanics weren't as good as we expect them to be. It was definitely some rust. Once he starts to get more reps with the first team with Amari Cooper, I expect Cooper's production to go up. JT, Pollard, or ETN the rest of the year, it has to be Tony Pollard. The Cowboys are going to be playing important games. They're going to need their offense to put up points. And while Jonathan Taylor, I expect the Jeff Saturday train to continue to run all on Jonathan Taylor. I can't really trust him in ETN. He got banged up and he didn't have the kind of production last week that I wanted, so it'd be Tony Pollard for me the rest of the week. You're up 23 in fantasy and my opponent has Godwin only. Do I hold on for the win? Absolutely, I think you do. Why is Andy Dalton still starting? Because Jameis Winston is the backup. That's the truth. I think right now Dennis Allen would rather go down with the Andy Dalton ship than go with Jameis Winston, because I think it's easier for him to explain to fans that Andy Dalton is a more game manager kind of quarterback. The throws Jameis Winston would make, you'd go, he's throwing the game away. You don't feel Andy Dalton's doing that even when he throws his interceptions. So, is Kamara going to get more than 10.5 points tonight? I think it's going to be tough. The Buccaneers are one of the best run defenses in the league, so it would have to come through the pass. It really depends for me. If you're in a PPR league, that'll actually make a big difference. Devontae Adams and D-Hop are your wide receivers, Watson as well. Do I trade him now and get value out of him? Christian Watson, I may. Christian Watson may be someone you want to trade. He's had just the hottest run possible. Do I really think that kind of production is going to keep up? No, I don't. I think opposing defenses are going to start to cover him more. So I think there's a good opportunity for you to maybe trade him and add to a running back or another position of need. Do you think the Bengals couldn't make it to playoffs? No, the Bengals are making the playoffs. Bengals are making the playoffs. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube, at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, at Sports Fumble on Twitter. If I'm answering your question, just give us a like. Lets me know that I've answered it. Certainly appreciate all the support. Definitely give us a follow, at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Amon-Ra St. Brown, or is that A.J. Brown? Well, you got to go A.J. Brown right now for me, only because what I'm seeing with him and Jalen Hurts is the kind of chemistry you have to believe in. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been great, but there's always a concern about injury. He takes some big shots. A.J. Brown is a bigger guy. Even when he takes a hit, I definitely have more confidence that he's going to bounce back. Olave or Godwin? I'm actually going to go with Olave tonight. Is Brady's Bucks a contender in the NFC with Jimmy G with his injury? The answer is absolutely, only because they're gonna get a home game. So if somehow the Seahawks found their way into that top of the NFC West, that would push the 49ers in a road game against Brady. I could see Brady winning that. So could I see Tom Brady winning a game in the playoffs? Absolutely. It's Tom Brady. I won't count him out until he's dead. You think Olave can drop more than 13? It's going to be tight. It would have to take a touchdown. I think it's possible, but I think you're maybe a point away. You're kind of setting the line at the over/under at 13. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and YouTube as we just talk some sports. If you've got other questions, gambling questions, fantasy questions, it's a big week in fantasy coming up. So if you've got questions, who to pick up off the waiver wire, who should you trade for, who should you start or sit? I know we're closing out week 13 and Monday Night Football. If you've got player prop bets that you want to talk about, we're here for you. Fumble Sports, we believe the fan should never be number 2. And yes, that is a pun. Olave over 5 receptions tonight. Going to be tight. I think it's close. I could see him getting it, but I think that he's going to be targeted 8 times. It's really a question of if he's able to hold on. I'll like 5 receptions tonight. I'll take it. I think he's going to get targeted a lot. I think there's only so many people that they can target in that Saints offense. Appreciate all of you joining us. Please give us a follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Feel free to bring up anything that you want. Fantasy football, gambling, your favorite team, how you think certain players are going to do. I'll even talk baseball. I can't even believe some of the action going on in baseball. I know that isn't the Twitter space for this, but so with Lattimore not playing, I certainly think it gives Evans and Godwin a better chance of having good nights. That said, I'm still just hesitant to go with them simply because historically they haven't played well against the Saints, and I think that almost speaks to how the Saints cover them as much as the players that they have on them. That said, I do think Evans, I have to believe he's either going to get 5 receptions week. Appreciate all of you joining us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Did the committee get the Final Four teams right for college football? Absolutely they did. There was no other way to do it, and I don't think the country wanted to see Michigan-Ohio State in that 2-3 matchup, so I thought that was a great decision by them. That Georgia-Ohio State team is going to be a championship-level game, and then Michigan-TCU. Look out for TCU. They're absolutely a fighter, so while I think Michigan will ultimately win that one, that game is going to be more competitive than people think. I'm also putting out my best bets of the night are Tampa Bay to cover, Tampa Bay on the money line, and I also like the under. So it's Tampa Bay on the money line, Tampa Bay to cover. I would buy the 1.5, get it down from 3 to 1.5, so that's Tampa Bay -1, and I'd also take the under, buy it up to under 42.5. Dodgers are unraveling, and albeit out on the other players already. So I don't think the Dodgers are unraveling. They have a lot of talent in their farm system. I just think that the arms race that is the National League is completely changing. It used to just be kind of the Cardinals or the Cubs or the Dodgers who would make some big moves. The Padres are making big moves. The Giants are willing to spend money like they haven't in years. The Phillies, the Mets, obviously, the Braves. So it's just an arms race in the National League. It's interesting. It used to be the power in the American League. It used to be Boston and New York just contending for it all the time. Still want to stick to some football, Monday Night Football. If you've got some questions about who to start tonight in your fantasy game, what player prop bets to make, please give us a shout out. Hit us up in the comments section at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, we've got a few prop bets tonight. I am taking Tom Brady to throw over 1.5 touchdowns, I could see that even going in a screen pass. So Tom Brady over 1.5 touchdowns tonight. That's right, Lope. I like that. Simply we do think in the red zone, I think that's where Tom Brady is going to get his production. I think between the 20s is where you could see the running game. So I like I'm thinking about taking over half an interception. I didn't ultimately. I chickened out. Andy Dalton throwing over half an interception is always a good bet. So that's a player prop bet you should definitely consider. Those are just a few of the player prop bets. But as for the game picks tonight, the Fumble Sports pick for this one is Tampa Bay on the money line, Tampa Bay to cover. I buy it down, Bucks -1.5, and the under 42.5 after I buy it up. I don't want to hit my head on that ceiling. My final score pick for this one is 20 to 17. That's my prediction. Appreciate everyone joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube. Feel free to hit us up in the comments section if you've got fantasy questions, gambling questions, fantasy football, player prop bets, who to start in this upcoming Week 14. If you've got players tonight for Monday Night Football, or if you just want to riff about whatever is going on in the NFL or around the world of sports, that's what we're here for. Fumble Sports, we're a new sports content company, and we believe every fan can be on-air talent. So feel free to join the conversation. That's why we're here. Tom Brady in his career against the Saints has a 5-5 record, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, with a completion percentage of just 61.5. So Tom Brady historically not great against the Saints. He is 1-3. Sorry, 1-4 in his last 5 matchups against the Saints. So ever since he came to Tampa Bay, not the same guy. I think for Matt Ryan, it is time to retire. I mean, he looks wobbly out there, and that's a word I only use with a quarterback who's past his time. Like wobbly, like you're kind of worried for him. He's like a grandfather, and you're afraid he's going to fall down. Like, oh, get his cane, get the walker. That's kind of how I feel about Matt Ryan at this point, and it is concerning. If I'm a Colts fan, ever since Andrew Luck retired, what the Colts have been is a 30 for 30 in real time. They just can't seem to find their guy. Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, insert that white boy. I know they had Jacoby Brissett for a time, but it's just disappointing because Andrew Luck, such a promising career, and obviously that retirement, it's working well for him, but not for the Colts. I don't think the Colts have quit on Saturday. I just think they ran into a buzzsaw. I think guys will continue to compete and fight because the NFL is different than college football. I think NFL, obviously, you're playing for your career. You're playing for your livelihood. Do you really want to be working at Home Depot? Do you want to be selling insurance? Do you want to be owning a car wash? Because if you don't work on these Sundays, yeah, I liked Ellinger at Texas, so I was kind of hoping that Ellinger would get a better shot. But they just haven't prioritized quarterback in the draft over the last few years, and to me that's a mistake. Because the Colts were a quarterback away, and I felt that way about their defense and their offensive line. So, yeah, back. When he said they were back, I believed it. I guess it took Arch Manning for them to actually be back. But that said, yeah, I'm disappointed with where the Colts have gone over the last few years. Picks, so I could see him going, somewhere between 7 and 12, and I think he'd be someone they should turn to. I know he's on the smaller side, but that guy can play, so I'd love to see him on that Colts team. Dallas Super Bowl, there were 2 teams that really won yesterday, and I mean really won, and it's the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. They won on the field and they won in the standings because the moment Jimmy G got hurt, the Eagles and Cowboys went, okay, so party in the NFC Championship game. I know I'm saying the Vikings, I'm pushing them aside, but the Eagles and the Eagles and the Cowboys both played the Vikings, and I expect if those teams were to play again, same outcome. So I think the Eagles and the Cowboys looked really good. Who wins that division? It may determine who ultimately goes to the Super Bowl and who wins the Super Bowl. I think this is Dallas's best chance at a Super Bowl in 2 decades, easily 2 decades. So if Dallas is going to go there, Jimmy G getting hurt absolutely helped them. Is there anything the Broncos can do to help Russ? Yeah, they can replenish the offensive line in the draft. They can address that. They're going to have to do something at the running back position. This defense is good, so I think the defense is going to add a few players here and there. But I think with Russ, I think it's actually about the believability more than anything else, because I think Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton are talented receivers. I know they gave away Noah Fant. I was really sad for them to see him go. Albert O, whatever happened to that guy? He was supposed to be the next tight end to kind of slot in for Noah Fant. But for me, it's the offensive line. And for Russell Wilson, it's, dude, you don't cook. Like this whole notion, this whole branding scheme of Russell Wilson, you cook. Like that's nonsense. You know who wins championships? Guys who manage games, guys who do the right things. Patrick Mahomes is an outlier. Like, how many big arm quarterbacks have actually won Super Bowls? Like, legitimately. Usually it's a guy who's a game manager. So just be smart, be disciplined, you'll go farther. And I think Russell Wilson needs to learn that. So I think that the Broncos need to build their team around Russell not cooking and more of it being a balanced running attack. Build in the trenches, build an offensive line, and then ultimately, let Russ lead with experience, not with, over-the-top talent. Do you think it's time to bench Debo and Pierce? I think it's time to bench Dameon Pierce. He's definitely hit the rookie wall. Opposing defenses know that he's going to be the main back and the main focal point in the Texans offense. I think it is time to move on from him. I'm not moving on from Debo. If the 49ers are going to do anything in the remaining weeks of the season, Debo Samuel is going to be a very important piece in this 49ers offense. I don't see his targets going down. I don't see his usage going down. I think the 49ers are going to need him and Christian McCaffrey more than ever, because now it's not about a talented quarterback or it's not about an experienced quarterback. It's about raw athleticism, just winning out and ultimately dominating. So for me, that's Debo Samuel isn't someone you want to give up right now. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube. We're just talking sports, talking some football right up until kickoff of Monday Night Football between the Saints and the Buccaneers. For those that missed it, the Fumble Sports pick for this game is Tampa Bay to cover -1.5. I want to buy the points down. It's at 3 right now. Get it under 3. If you can, get it under 2 like I am. Bucks -1.5. I feel really good about that. Lattimore is not playing. I think that's an injury that certainly helps my cause. As for the over-under, I am leaning towards the under. My final score prediction is 20-17. So I like the under in this one, even with Lattimore out. I'm down 13. Olave and Taysom Hill. Do I have a chance? I think you have a chance, because I could see Olave outscoring Kamara. I could see Taysom Hill. You know, if the Saints are going to do anything tonight, to me, Taysom Hill is going to have to be involved in some kind of big offensive play, whether as a passer or as a runner. But I like Olave. I think he's going to be, to me, I expect him to be the #1 fantasy player tonight, only because the Saints offense relies on him so much. I could see Evans maybe topping him just because with Lattimore out, he gets a touchdown and a couple extra yards. But I don't see a lot of offense in this game, hence why I'm taking the under. How far are the Miami Dolphins going? Well, only as far as their offensive tackles. So they signed Eric Fisher, the former Kansas City Chief, earlier today, and that's because they had to put Armstrong, or I believe it's Taron Armstrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had to put one of their offensive tackles on IR. Both of their offensive tackles were out against the 49ers, and you saw what happened there. You can't stop Nick Bosa with this offensive line right now, and as fast as Tua can get the ball out, you can't get it out that fast with how the opposing defenses are now going to play them. So to me, the Miami Dolphins are a team to have hope for once they make it to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win their division. I think the Bills are going to lock up the AFC East. So it's the Miami Dolphins going on the road. Where are they going? You know, are they playing in Cincinnati? Are they playing in Kansas City? Are they playing in Buffalo ultimately? This is a team coming from South Beach that's going to have to travel in January. I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good about Tua necessarily in weather. So a lot of reasons for me to not feel good about Miami come playoff time, but I certainly think they're going to make the playoffs. Teron Armstead, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Lope Dog. I expect he will come back simply because the IR at this point is really used as it should be, which isn't a season-ending notification or designation, but simply says that they have the option to come back. So the offensive tackles are everything to me for the Miami Dolphins. If they're not able to protect Tua, I do not see them going anywhere. Oh, Austin Jackson was to the IR. Thank you. Appreciate all of you joining us on YouTube and on TikTok Live, at Fumble Sports on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, as well as at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Where is OBJ going? I think he's going to ultimately go to the Cowboys. I think that is where he'll end up. Should the Jets stick with Mike White? Absolutely. It's a no-brainer decision for me. I don't think there is another option. I wouldn't go with Joe Flacco at this point. And Zach Wilson, I think, needs to remain on the bench the remainder of the year. Where is OBJ going? I think he's going to the Cowboys. I think they're going to sign him. I know I mentioned this earlier. I'm on both sides of this spread tonight. So earlier in the week, I was able to get the Saints at +5. That line has moved a little bit down, so I'm not as crazy about it. But if there are places where you can get the Saints at +5, and like me, you can get the Bucks at -1.5, I think that's a great place to be. I see this, like I said earlier, I have it as a 2017 game, maybe 2016, field goals instead of touchdowns. So I think there's a good opportunity in this one to cash on the under, cash on Tampa Bay on the money line, and cash on both sides of the spread after you buy points. Tampa Bay -1.5, Saints +4.5, +5. Up 5 with Kamara. He has Lutz, but double kicker points. Ooh, not a good position to be in. Rachaad White over 2 receptions. Yes, I'll lean towards that. I'll lean towards it. I'm not crazy about it because I think it could be 2 on the dot, but I think you might get that third. Thoughts on D'Onta Foreman? I think Foreman was a great story there for a couple weeks. Clearly was the bell cow for Carolina, but I'm not crazy about him. I think they're going to continue to feed him, but I don't think he's going to put up 100-yard games like he was a few weeks ago. So I think Foreman was a nice story, but I expect his production to be closer to 55, 60 yards than 100. What's your opinion about Watson of Green Bay at wide receiver? I think he's been as hot as anyone possible. This is like, this is like a meme stock. Like this is GameStop. Sell it, trade it, get rid of it right now. This guy couldn't be hotter. They're going into a bye week afterwards. It's probably going to be Jordan Love. I could see this offensive passing unit kind of go down in production. I would trade him. I think if you're going to continue to have him, play him, but I wouldn't be surprised if his production goes down in the remaining weeks of the season. Rachaad White or Leonard Fournette tonight in fantasy, I'd go Rachaad White. I think he's going to get more touches, and I think he'll be involved in the run and pass game more than Fournette coming off a hip injury. Any player prop bets that are good for tonight? Andy Dalton over half an interception is always one you may want to consider. I do think that Marshawn Lattimore being out would impact my thinking about Evans on an anytime touchdown. I don't like him on over receptions. I would actually probably take Evans under 4.5 receptions. Historically against the Saints, he hasn't done better than that. The run game, I don't like either running game, so I'm kind of avoiding that. And I do have Tom Brady throwing over 1.5 touchdowns. I know that's a bit of a stretch. Not a popular bet, but I'm taking a chance on it because I'm getting it plus money. Need Kamara to get 10 points, PPR. I think you got a chance. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube. Definitely give us a follow and subscribe at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Appreciate all of you joining us as we go up until game time for Monday Night Football between the Saints and Buccaneers. Where I see it right now, the Bucs are a 3-point favorite. The Fumble Sports bet for this one, I'm going to buy 1.5 points and get it down. So Bucs minus 42.5 and Bucs minus 1.5. I also, if you can, get the Saints at +5. Think that's a good play. So you might want to take it on both sides. Jalen Hurts or Mahomes for MVP? It's an interesting question right now. I still lean towards Mahomes because I think Jalen Hurts is reliant on a lot of other players right now. I think A.J. Brown is putting up some MVP kind of performances. I think Miles Sanders has had some really big weeks. Without Patrick Mahomes right now, I think the Chiefs are lost, and I think part of the reason I lean towards Mahomes is because Tyreek Hill got traded. Jalen Hurts has his superstar receiver. I know Travis Kelce, so don't come at me with he's got Travis Kelce. I just think Hurts has more weapons, and Patrick Mahomes is doing more to help his team win. Jalen Hurts right now, I know they only have 1 loss. I think that does go a long way, but I think their run game is important. I think they've got the best offensive line in the NFL right now, so I lean towards Mahomes. That said, Mahomes loses 1 more game and Jalen Hurts finishes the season with only 1 loss. If Jalen Hurts beats the Cowboys and finishes the season with 1 loss, I will absolutely give him the MVP. Rachaad White and Evans, your opponent has Kamara and is up by 1. You think I got this? I do. I think you're going to be in a good spot, Marcus. Appreciate all of you joining us. Please give us a follow at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We're a new sports content company. We put out a lot of content, fantasy content, gambling content, and we put out rants. So if you want to hear my takes on a number of issues or a number of things from this past NFL Sunday, go check out our content. And of course, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Once I answer them, give us a like. Should I drop Josh Palmer or George Pickens for Rachaad White? For upcoming weeks, I wouldn't. I would keep both of those players. I wouldn't drop. If it's for tonight, I would drop George Pickens, but they already played, so I don't know how you do that. So for me, I would keep those two players. Josh Palmer, I really like him. Pickens disappointed me. He was another player prop bet that I had this week and let me down. He only had one reception yesterday, was just not targeted at all, given the Falcons are not a good pass defense. That said, I expect both of them to have good production where I could see Rachaad White's numbers dwindling a little bit with Leonard Fournette coming back and getting healthier. Fournette is active, but not 100%. Does that help with betting on Rachaad White? I think it does. But not on rushing yards. I would do it on receiving plus rushing yards. Look for what his total is. That might be a good play. I do think Lattimore being out for the Saints impacts that a little bit because I think it'll be easier for Tom Brady to pass down the field. He won't need to check down to his running back quite as much. But I do think that Leonard Fournette not being as healthy may encourage you to consider Rachaad White on an active basis like that. Are you over Joe Burrow? You shouldn't be over Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is a special quarterback. And one of the things I like to always see in this league is who's going to be the next, Foreman Ali. And we saw for 2 decades, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady go at it. Obviously, now there's Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. And we were reminded yesterday, Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Burrow is another matchup we're going to see year in, year out. The NFL is so smart about how they schedule these big matchups. We're going to see those two quarterbacks go at it quite a bit, and it won't only be in the playoffs. So really excited to see where the NFL is. There's so much talent at quarterback. I laughed for years. The guys who won the Super Bowl were Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Ben Roethlisberger for a majority of 2 decades. I could see a lot of different quarterbacks winning Super Bowls over the next decade. I don't think there are going to be too many repeat champions. Should you go under with Fournette? It depends what his total is. I feel like Vegas has a pretty good understanding of how he's going to go. I think Fournette will probably get somewhere around 35 yards. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube. Please put in some questions in the comments section. Happy to talk about anything related to this Monday Night Football game between the Saints and Bucs, or anything from NFL Week 13, 14, fantasy, gambling, whatever you guys want to talk right now. But Fumble Sports, we're just hanging out on a Monday night talking some sports with all of you. So definitely put some comments out there. Happy to talk anything. Also, definitely check out our content. We put out waiver wire watch, start, flex, and sit, gambling advice, game picks, prop bets, and of course rants. We definitely have our takes on everything going on in the world of sports. A lot going on in baseball, obviously the NBA and NHL. I know we're getting to bowl season, so happy bowl season for everybody. But that said, this Monday Night Football game, it's going to determine a lot in the NFL playoff picture. I know a lot of people aren't thinking that. Do I have a crypto opinion? Yeah, don't get into it right now. How do you think Purdy is going to do? I think he's going to do fine. I don't think he's going to be impressive. I think he's going to be like Bailey Zappi was for a couple weeks, which is going to be a check down quarterback. He's going to use the talent around him. He's going to rely on the system. I don't think he's going to get them anywhere in the playoffs, but I could see him doing okay because I think he's going to exist with a very defined, structured kind of world with Shanahan. Up 24, he has Brady. Always nervous with Brady. I'd be a little less nervous. Yeah, Brady hasn't played well against the Saints in his career historically. That said, no Lattimore gives you a little bit more reason for concern, but I think you might be okay, William. What team do I think Mayfield will sign with? I don't think Mayfield will sign with a team this year. My suspicion is I think he's going to go unsigned this year, and then he will be signed by someone in the offseason and compete in training camp to be a backup, really. But I think a number of teams just don't like what they've seen from Baker Mayfield. And at this point in the year, I think a lot of teams want to see what they have on their roster. You want to evaluate the players that you have to see if anyone's actually going to stand out and be on your squad next year. I think a lot of people know what Baker Mayfield is. He brings, I don't want to say drama because he really doesn't. He just brings noise. And I don't think a lot of head coaches or general managers at this time of year want to bring unnecessary noise. I think they're actually trying to tamper down the noise and just start to evaluate some of their players. I see Aaron Judge is at Monday Night Football. So whatever that means, I know he was at a football game yesterday, and a lot of people were talking about he was at the 49ers game. Is he going to the San Francisco Giants? So I just saw him. Clearly, he's just a Tom Brady fan. Dameon Pierce or Sanders? Sanders. Sanders, absolutely, given how that offensive line is playing. What do I think of the Rams, Lope? I think not only are the Rams done, is Mayfield going to the Rams? That would be interesting. The two teams I could see are the Texans and the Rams. For just that point, I think those are two teams that would be willing to just give it a try. The Texans more so than the Rams, because I actually think the Texans could probably sell some jerseys to Oklahoma fans who would like to see Baker Mayfield playing back closer to home. That said, I really think Baker Mayfield is just going to go unsigned. Kamara or Rachaad White tonight? I lean towards Kamara. You think in the right system Baker Mayfield could go far? My problem is I don't know what system that is. I don't know if he's a big arm quarterback who needs to be in an Andy Reid style system where we're taking chances, or the equivalent of a Bruce Arians system where they're taking chances, or does he need to be in a more disciplined system? I don't know. That's part of my problem is I don't know what Baker Mayfield is right now. He's a big arm quarterback who's small. He likes to roll around and move, but he's not that fast. Like, he does things, but he doesn't do them to a level that makes me confident that he can stay in this league as a starting quarterback. So there are just a lot of reasons that I have my doubts. College football predictions. I think the best game is absolutely going to be Ohio State against Georgia. I think that's a championship caliber matchup. That said, I think Georgia's ultimately going to win. They're kind of playing on home turf in that one, so I think it's going to go a long way. And I think the Georgia defense learned a lot from what Michigan did against Ohio State's offense in that Big Ten matchup earlier. So I think Georgia's ultimately going to win that game. I think TCU will give some fight to Michigan, but Michigan will win. So it'll be Michigan and Georgia. I think the lack of star will hurt Michigan in that game. I have Georgia winning its second national championship in a row. Up 33, Evans and Godwin playing tonight. My thoughts, I'm not crazy about it. I think you're going to be biting your fingernails. I don't think it's going to happen just because I think the passing game of the Bucs will be better. But I still think against the Saints, there's something to the fact that the Saints play well against Tom Brady. I think they have a good system against him. They won't get as much pressure as they have in the past. I think it helps that this game is at home for Brady. But that said, I don't expect Evans and Godwin to go off. Appreciate William, and feel free to ask more questions. That's what we're here for, at Fumble Sports. Please give us a follow on Twitter, at SportsFumble, and on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, at Fumble Sports. We're a new sports content company, and we believe the fan should never be number two. So if you've got questions, whatever you want to talk about, I just figured I'd jump on a Monday night. I've started doing my research for NFL Week 14. We're going to do a Twitter space tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We'll stream that on YouTube as well. And then I'll probably jump into TikTok Live after that, just give some more gambling and fantasy advice. But we're already looking to Week 14. We had a massive Week 13. You can check out on our Twitter account. We had a number of parlays hit. So already putting in the work, because that's what it takes to cash tickets and put out good advice and hopefully give a lot of sports fans some entertainment to enjoy. I know it's early, but would you play White or Pierce next week? Must-win game. It is a little bit early, but fortunately for you, like I just said, we've already started to put in some of our research. So let me give it a look. So the Houston Texans are playing the Dallas Cowboys. I think that kind of answers it for you right there. I would not start Dameon Pierce. I think he's going to get absolutely destroyed. I know the Rachaad White is going up against the 49ers, but I'd actually rather have Rachaad White and Tampa Bay's offense going up against the 49ers than I would Pierce going up against the Cowboys. Thoughts on Bam Knight? I was really impressed by what I saw. I mentioned this earlier in the show, but when you have a rookie running back who's been playing the entire year like a Dameon Pierce, you see them hit the rookie wall kind of this time of year when the college football season ends. Knight, he's got fresh legs. I could see him giving a burst both to the Jets and to fantasy owners. So something to keep your eye on. I agree with you, Jeremiah. I feel like the Saints will put up a fight in this one, but the Bucs will win a close one. I've got a final score of 20-17, 20-16, something like that. So I have the Bucs covering. I'm buying it down to -1.5 just to be safe, and I'm also taking the under 42.5. I do like the Saints to cover if I can get that up to +4, +4.5 or +5. Appreciate all of you joining us. Please give us a follow on Twitter @SportsFumble and on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube @ButtFumbleSports. Appreciate all of you joining us who on TikTok Live and on YouTube. Once I answer your question, just give us a like. Up 9 against Fournette. Am I going to win? Unfortunately, it's going to be close. I think you will win. You're up. I think you're gonna be close. I think you'll probably win by 2 or 3 points. You have Pacheco on the bench instead of White. I mean, I like Pacheco more than I like White right now. You're just seeing a lot from Pacheco. He had a big day. I didn't expect Pacheco to have as big a day yesterday as he did, but he actually he really impressed me. I could see him continuing to be used in that Chiefs offense quite frequently. Would you rather have Rachaad White, Bam Knight, or Pirine? The answer is probably Pirine right now, only because I still think Joe Mixon's injury may plague him a little bit longer. He'll come back, but I don't think he'll get as many snaps. And that said, I think the Bengals are learning when they use Pirine, they're a better offense. Pirine is a much more physical north-south running back. I think it forces defenses to compact a little bit. It gives some space on the outside for their wide receivers. It's one of the reasons I actually think Pirine makes them better. Can Deion Sanders be successful at Colorado? The answer is 100% yes, for a couple reasons. One, the Pac-12 is disintegrating. The Pac-12 is not going to be as competitive in the next couple of years with USC and UCLA leaving, meaning Colorado is now competing with Oregon to be the best team in the conference, competing with Utah to be the best team in the conference. I could see Colorado turning that program, Deion turning that program around very quickly. He's going to bring in a lot of recruits overnight. I could see Colorado being competitive. I think Colorado is going to be ranked next year. Mark my words, Colorado will be a ranked team next year, and I could see Colorado being competitive, not for a college football playoff, but being competitive for bowl games, maybe for a Rose Bowl in the next couple years. And by the way, that's what Deion's gunning for. If I'm Deion Sanders, I'm going to Colorado. I'm going to play in a Rose Bowl game. I want to win a Rose Bowl game, and then I'm moving on to another program. I'm going to FSU then, or I'm taking on some massive program that I've actually got my eye on. I don't think he's going to stay at Colorado for more than 4 years. Yeah, feel free, Jeremiah. Comment on the running backs for next week. Is Cam Akers back to being startable? I don't think so, but that's more because I don't trust anything that has to do with the LA Rams offense. I'm just completely fading them. There's no reason for me to believe in them. Fournette or Rachaad White for flex? Rachaad White. Have I seen whose schedule, Dimples? Let me know who you're talking about. Thoughts on Lamar Jackson's injury? I'm hearing it's week to week. I think that's beneficial. I haven't seen Colorado's schedule. I'm assuming it's going to be a lot of cupcakes and some Pac-12ers, but certainly something that Deion can turn some into some wins. Do they have some big name opponents on there? Lamar Jackson's injury, though, I think it really hurts the Ravens because this is a team that's barely ahead of the Cincinnati Bengals right now. They have the tiebreaker, but I think the Bengals are going to win the division, and I don't like Lamar Jackson, even when he's healthy, going on the road against a Patrick Mahomes, against a Josh Allen, against a Joe Burrow. So I think this injury is going to kind of plague the Ravens the rest of the year. I think it'll ultimately be the reason they get knocked out of the playoffs. Is Swift back? Swift is back. Yeah, USC and UCLA leaving is going to be a massive move. I actually think it's one of the reasons that Colorado works for Deion. The Pac-12 needs Deion Sanders right now. The Pac-12 needs Deion to bring attention to the conference, to bring some energy, to bring some recruits. So I actually think Colorado did the Pac-12 a big favor because what does every TV network want right now? They want to see Deion Sanders on the sidelines. That's not something we were getting with Jackson State every week. It's something you'll get with Colorado. We're going to see a lot of Colorado games on Fox Sports 1 or whoever has the Pac-12. You'll see a lot of them. ESPN, whoever it is. Is Miles Sanders startable? Absolutely, especially because I trust that offensive line. The Eagles' offensive line is worth trusting. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube. Once I answer your question, give us a like, and of course, give us a follow or subscribe at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. So they start with TCU in Nebraska. Okay, they'll lose to TCU. They should. I think they could beat Nebraska. I'd rather be in Deion Sanders' position in the transfer portal than Matt Rule with Nebraska. I think more talented young recruits want to play for Deion than want to go play for Matt Rule at Nebraska. So I could see Colorado winning that game against Nebraska. I think the Pac-12, they're losing so much value out of USC and UCLA. There's nothing that can overcome that. That's multiple $1 billion of loss. Like, that's what that is. So I'm not saying Deion Sanders is going to fill that void, but is Deion Sanders going to entertain some people and get people and more importantly, get TV networks to spend money on Pac-12 games? Yeah, and that's the name of the game right now. It's recruits and it's TV money. That's what makes the college football world go round, and Deion Sanders is going to help with that. If Jim Harbaugh wins a championship, will he go pro? No, I don't think he will. I think he's going to stay. I think he's going to stay in part because I think he knows, to his line, who's got it better than him right now? Nobody. He owns Ohio State. He's the most popular man in Michigan. If he left right now, I think it would be a mistake. This is now the time he can get the recruits that he wants. Now, this is the time he can bask in his glory. Harbaugh can go to the NFL anytime. He has a standing job, I'm sure, with 3 or 4 teams, the Colts included. So if he really wants to leave, he can. Why would you leave right now? If you want to leave, I'd actually leave at a time that your college football stock is lower because you're still going to be accepted into the NFL. So I don't think Harbaugh's going anywhere. The transfer portal changed everything. The transfer portal was the most important development in college sports. And then obviously the NIL is going to have a major impact. But the transfer portal it's free agency. And I think it's good because I think if a player is making a 4-year commitment but a coach isn't, I think that does impact a lot. But you're going to see Colorado is going to become the darling of the transfer portal overnight. Okay, any waiver wire suggestions, given that you lost Lamar Jackson? We will put out waiver wire suggestions, so definitely check out our content at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, at Sports Fumble on Twitter. I'm happy to check out who's out there and available for you. That said, we will put out waiver wire watch suggestions Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so definitely check out that content. But that said, quarterbacks that I would look at right now that might be available in some of your leagues, Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett right now is starting to get better by the week. He's definitely someone I would consider. Obviously, Mike White. Mike White is getting to a point where he's starting to play well enough statistically where you may want to give him a look. Like I said, we will put out waiver wire watch content tomorrow and on Wednesday. So give us a follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Who's getting the first touchdown tonight? Man, I never play those. I'm terrible at that. I always feel like it's always some rando. That said, if I had to put any guess on it, I'll either say Olave or Mike Evans. Should the Texans take Stroud with the first pick? I would. I think Stroud actually is the right quarterback for them to draft. I know that his stock has kind of fallen in the last 2 weeks, but I think he is the right quarterback for the Texans to take. If you can't get somebody crazy, if you can't do something nuts. Like, to me, I think Lamar Jackson is out of reach for a team like the Texans. I don't see why he would want to go there. If you were a team like the Jets, I feel like you could maybe get someone out of free agency. Appreciate all of you joining us. This has been a really wonderful hour and a half going through Monday Night Football preview, but just talking sports in general. Definitely give us a follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll take you all the way up until kickoff, just about 15 minutes from now. So if you have any gambling, fantasy, prop bet questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll definitely give it an answer. That's what we're here for. Butt Fumble Sports, where we believe the fan should never be number two. We just love talking sports. One other thing for you, Butt Fumble Sports is a new sports content company, so definitely check out our content. But if you believe you could be on-air talent, if you love talking sports and you just love doing it, but you never had the chance to do it for a living, give us a contact. Hit us up on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube, because we believe the fan can always be on-air talent. We have the coaching, distribution, and production resources to help you, so definitely give us a contact. Can you get 44 from Evans and Godwin? No, I don't think so. Sorry, man. I think you're going to be out of luck in this one. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok live and on YouTube as we go for another few minutes before the kickoff of Monday Night Football. If you have any fantasy football questions, anything you want to bring up, we're more than happy to talk sports with you, so definitely hit us up. The bets for tonight's game that I have, the Butt Fumble Sports picks, are Bucks on the money line, Tampa Bay to cover -1.5 after you buy the points, and then the Saints to cover +5 if you can buy it up. We got that earlier in the week. I'd also take the under 42.5. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube. Definitely give us a follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter and at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube. For all of those who have some parlays in action tonight, another thing you definitely want to look out for, if you've got a parlay that's in the works, you might want to hedge it while you still have time. We had a lot of parlays hit this past Sunday, so Butt Fumble Sports, we still have a couple tickets out there that include the Bucks on the money line. We've been hedging that, so we've been taking the Saints to cover just to make sure that we're cashing money tonight. Do I think Sam Hartman will get drafted? I don't know who Sam Hartman is. You're going to have to let me know, Marcus. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok, Instagram. Thank you for all of us joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube as we go up until kickoff of Monday Night Football between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they host the New Orleans Saints. Oh, the Wake Forest quarterback. I'd be interested to see how he falls in the draft. I don't see him going anywhere, sooner than fifth, sixth round. Mike Evans caught a touchdown in every Monday night game in his career. Does that streak continue? Wow, what a great stat, Loeb. I don't know where you found that, but that's a great stat. And yes, I do like that one. Thoughts on James Cook? Really like what I'm seeing from James Cook. He's getting a lot of touches for the Buffalo Bills. Really like what I'm seeing from him. The 49ers are better against the run than Dallas, so the Texans running back should have a better day, but I don't think so, in part because of the quarterback situation for the Texans. So just because one defense is better doesn't mean that's actually the matchup to consider. I think Dallas is going to shut down Dameon Pierce, where I think the 49ers, going up against Rachaad White, they just have more options that they have to cover at the wide receiver position. They have more to deal with Tom Brady. I think that means less attention on Rachaad White, so I actually feel differently, Jeremiah. My thoughts on Tua, if he doesn't have an offensive line that's reliable, he's not the same quarterback. I think Tua's fragile. I think Tua is vulnerable, and when he doesn't have a good offensive line, it's concerning. And so I like how quick he gets the ball out. I love the speed that the Dolphins put on the field. But there's reasons for me to be concerned with Tua if the offensive tackles aren't healthy for the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, exactly. The box is going to be loaded for Purdy. That said, I think Debo and Christian McCaffrey could actually be okay. I don't think that is every quarterback, actually. I think that there are certain quarterbacks who can handle it better than others. Like, for example, some of the quarterbacks you see, like a Josh Allen, like a Patrick Mahomes, even a Jalen Hurts, I think they have a natural inclination to kind of step up, run, move when there are openings, and that could be because the pocket's collapsing. Tua, I don't think he should be on the run. I think he's a vulnerable quarterback when he's on the run, so I actually feel different. It's an interesting take, Michael. So we just feel differently about this one only because I don't trust Tua as much. I think you probably could say it about most quarterbacks. I think Tua is a special circumstance. I get what you're saying that it's Mahomes. Yeah, I hope Armstead is back. I heard Austin Jackson is going to be on the IR, so that's a big blow for the Miami Dolphins. And again, I don't see them winning that division, so they're going to be on the road in the playoffs. That's a team from South Beach that's going to be traveling in weather. And I'm not saying that impacts every player, but Tua Tagovailoa, has he really played in weather in his entire career, whether from high school to college to pro? I can't remember a game in which I've seen Tua Tagovailoa play in snow or play in really cold conditions. So I'd be interested to see what's the coldest he's played in and how he performs. Appreciate the support. Please give us a follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter and at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube. Butt Fumble Sports, we're a new sports content network. We put out content every day, so give us a check. We were going to put out fantasy content, gambling content, rants, everything that the fan needs. We believe the sports fan should never be number 2. Thoughts on Marquise Hollywood Brown? He's kind of disappointed me. He just can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field. I like him, but he's got bursts of speed. But I think that trade really hurt, or his departure really hurt the Baltimore Ravens. They haven't been the same since, but he's just not on the field enough. Kamara dropping 40 points tonight? No, he's not playing basketball, and I don't see him dropping 40 points tonight. I see it closer to, maybe like 12 to 15, 12 to 14. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live and on YouTube for a few more minutes as we take you up until kickoff of Monday Night Football between the Saints and Buccaneers. The Butt Fumble Sports pick of the night is Tampa Bay on the money line. We're taking Tampa Bay -1.5 as well. If you're able to get the Saints at +5, I like that, but I also like the under 42.5 after you buy up the points. Appreciate all of you joining us. Appreciate the likes. Appreciate the follows. Please follow, subscribe at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. And we will have NFL Week 14 content for you tomorrow. Join us on Twitter Space and on YouTube as we, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we will go through all the games for NFL Week 14. I believe early lines are a great opportunity to take advantage of what Vegas puts out before public money comes down. So we will be on TikTok Live afterwards as well. So make sure you watch us tomorrow. Should the Packers bench Rodgers? Yeah, I would. I think they have the bye week this week. Get Jordan Love prepared. Turn the team over for Jordan Love for the remainder of the year and put Rodgers on IR. You're up 1.5 points. You have Kamara and Evans. You think you have a chance? Yeah, I do. Or you have Kamara versus Evans. Yeah, I think you could still win. I think it's going to be tight, though. I think it's tight. I think Evans might outscore him, so it's close. I think you're going to be sweating it. If Tua's O-line is healthy, I feel very different about what the Miami Dolphins can be. But that said, given where their O-line is, and also given what I'm starting to see from other AFC teams, there's just a lot of talented quarterbacks out there right now. So it's going to be Tua up against a Josh Allen, a Mahomes, a Burrow. There are a lot of reasons for me to be concerned. If I'm the Miami Dolphins, the team I want to play the most in the playoffs is the Tennessee Titans. You feel like the Dolphins could win that matchup as the wild card team. And then you'd probably be playing, the Chiefs or Burrow in the next round. So a tough road for the Miami Dolphins to go. Is Purdy a good waiver wire pickup? He might be, so you might want to grab and stash him while you can and just put him on the bench. Appreciate all of you joining us. We're going to go just a few more minutes before we let you go watch Monday Night Football. You're up 50. He has Evans and Olave. Yep, I think you're okay. I don't see that many points scored tonight. Appreciate all of you joining us. Please give us a follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter and at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Butt Fumble Sports, we're a new sports content company putting out content every day. Fantasy, gambling, rants, everything the sports fan needs. We believe the sports fan should never be number 2. One last time, we have a show tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be on Twitter Spaces at Sports Fumble and on YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. We will go through every game of NFL Week 14, giving you all the picks, gambling trends, notes that you need to cash in on the early betting line. So join us 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitter at SportsFumble and on TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube at ButtFumble Sports. Where do I think Judge is going to go? I think he's going to be a San Francisco Giant. I think Aaron Judge is going to be a Giant. I think the Yankees will be disappointed, and their fans will be disappointed for a year or two, but I don't think they want to live with that contract long term. Yeah, I'm expecting Judge to be announced pretty soon. Yeah, sorry about that. I hope Yankee fans are able to console themselves by snatching up another five or six other future superstars. The Yankees are loaded. They have a lot of talent, but I think Aaron Judge is going to move on. I just don't see him wanting to stay in New York. I think you're kind of seeing a similar trend between him and Jacob deGrom. Start Godwins or Evans tonight? I would start Evans. Appreciate all of you joining us. We are going to sign off now. Please give us a follow at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. And join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. On Twitter Spaces at SportsFumble and on YouTube at ButtFumble Sports. We will be going through all of NFL Week 14, so follow us then. Check out our content, and as always, good luck tonight on all your bets and all your fantasy plays.